2 days before my wedding, I received a text from my fiancé, Ethan. The message was short, blunt, and utterly baffling. Let's postpone the wedding by a day. I was at the bridal shop, standing in front of a three-way mirror in my gown, and I just stared at the glowing words on the screen until they blurred. I immediately called him, my heart a frantic drum against my ribs. It wasn't Ethan's voice that answered, but a woman's, sickly sweet and dripping with false innocence. "Hi, Amelia," she cooed. It was Clara. "We were just playing a game with friends, truth or dare. Ethan lost, and for his dare, he has to be my boyfriend for 3 days. I'm sure you understand, right?" I didn't say a word. I just calmly ended the call and dialed another number. "Dad," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor I felt deep inside. "That alliance you mentioned last time? I agree to it. Let's just change the groom." "Amelia, marriage isn't a game." My father's concerned voice came through the phone. "Are you absolutely certain about this?" "If I still feel the same way tomorrow morning," I replied, looking at my reflection in the mirror, a stranger in a white dress, "I'll go through with it your way." When I arrived at the dimly lit bar, the scene was exactly as I'd pictured. Ethan was already drunk, draped all over Clara Fuller, his head resting on her shoulder. The people around them, our supposed friends, were laughing and raising their glasses. "Congratulations, Ethan! You finally got what you wanted!" Someone shouted, and a round of applause followed. The moment they saw me standing at the edge of their circle, the noise died, replaced by an awkward, heavy silence. Clara helped Ethan sit up, but he just frowned and pulled away from her. "Why did you let go of me, Clara? You're my girlfriend now," he slurred, his words thick and clumsy. Without a word, I picked up a bottle of mineral water from a nearby table, walked over to him, and poured its contents directly over his head. The cold shock of it made him gasp. "Are you sober now?" I asked, my voice devoid of any emotion. He wiped the water from his face, his eyes slowly focusing on me. They were cold, completely empty of guilt or remorse. "Amelia Tate, are you crazy?" he snapped, his tone sharp with annoyance, not apology. "You came just in time," he said flatly, as if I were a minor inconvenience. "I lost a dare. I have to pretend to date Clara for 3 days. I already told my assistant to let all the guests know the wedding is off by a day. In the past, I would have cried. I would have argued, screamed, demanded an explanation. But this time, I felt a strange and profound calm settle over me. "All right," I said, "one day." In my heart, though, the decision was already cemented. The groom would no longer be him. I sent a quick text to my father. "I've made up my mind. I won't change it again." His reply was almost instantaneous. "Good, good. I always told you Ethan wasn't right for you. I'll start making the arrangements now." Back in the bar, Ethan, mistaking my silence for submission, pulled Clara close and smirked at the watching crowd. "See, I told you she wouldn't leave me," he said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Amelia, you know this is just for pretend. Clara and I will only act like a couple for a day, and then everything will go back to normal. We're still getting married. Surely you can give me that little bit of understanding." His words were like a physical blow. A burning humiliation washed over me, the pain piercing deeper than I could have imagined. 8 years of my life, of my love, all crushed under the weight of a childish game he was playing with his first love. I didn't say anything else. I simply turned around and walked out of the bar. Perhaps it was my quiet exit that unnerved the onlookers. I heard someone whisper behind me, "Ethan." She didn't say a word. Maybe she's really angry this time. Ethan just laughed it off. "You all know how much she loves me. We're about to get married. She would never break things off over something like this. Just wait, she'll be back in a few minutes." But this time he was wrong. I was done begging for scraps of his affection. If this was all I meant to him, then I wanted no part of it. I walked away into the night without a single glance back. When I got home, I pulled out my phone and navigated to Clara's social media page. There it was, a post from an hour ago. "Ah, lost a game of truth, or dare to my first love. Now we're back together for 3 days. What should I do?" Feeling nervous. Underneath it was a comment from Ethan, a pathetic, pleading little message. When two people who love each other can't be together, they should cherish these final moments. I felt a wave of nausea. I shut my phone. I walked to the closet, pulled out my beautiful, expensive wedding dress, and with a pair of scissors, I cut it into unrecognizable shreds. I went through the house, tearing up every photograph we'd ever taken together. Then, I gathered all of his belongings, his clothes, his books, his stupid video games, and threw them into trash bags. Finally, I called my assistant. "Sell the wedding house," I said, my voice firm. "Make sure it's gone within 3 days." News of Ethan's postponed wedding spread like wildfire. Early the next morning, his grandfather, a man I respected deeply, arrived at my doorstep with Ethan in tow. "Amelia," Mr. Newton said, his tone solemn and heavy. "This whole situation is entirely our family's fault. Postponing a wedding like this is something I cannot agree with." Before I could even respond, Ethan lifted his chin defiantly. "Amelia, I knew you'd pull something like this. Pretending to agree with me in person, then secretly running to my grandfather to complain. Let me tell you, just because you talk to him doesn't mean I'm going to do what you want." He was still convinced this was all a ploy for his attention. This time, I absolutely refused to back down. Without warning, Mr. Newton slapped Ethan hard across the face. "What nonsense are you spouting? Amelia hasn't said a single word to our family about any of this. You are completely blinded by that woman." Ethan clutched his cheek, his eyes filled with a furious glare directed at me. "Amelia, I've already made myself clear. I am going to marry you. All I asked for was to delay the ceremony by 1 day, just one. Don't think dragging Grandpa into this will make me end things with Clara. She finally agreed to be my girlfriend for 3 days, and I am not giving that up." Mr. Newton raised his hand to strike him again, but I gently stepped between them. "Mr. Newton, please," I said softly. "It's all right." Ethan scoffed at my gesture. "Amelia, stop pretending to be so gracious. Do you really think I'll be grateful just because you shielded me from Grandpa? You always try to act so righteous and selfless, but I see right through you. You're just trying to gain the upper hand. Don't think for a second that I'll give in. If it weren't for our engagement, Clara never would have left the country in the first place. We would have been together by now. I just want to fulfill my one wish and spend 3 days with her. If you can't even tolerate that, then you're the one being unreasonable." I raised my hand and slapped him hard across his other cheek. "Ethan," I said, my voice firm and clear, "I'm not going to stop you from being with Clara. Let's call off the engagement." He stared at me, completely stunned. Mr. Newton's face turned red with anger. "Ethan," he barked, "you apologize to Amelia right now." Ethan just sneered. Well, I really misjudged you. I never thought you were so calculating, pretending to break off the engagement just to force my hand. Our families have a binding agreement, and you know it can't be dissolved that easily. You just want to trap me with it, but it won't work, Amelia. I won't let you win." He stormed off, leaving a cold, tense silence in his wake. Mr. Newton looked at me, his face etched with sorrow. "Amelia, Ethan is just confused right now. I'll speak to him when we get back." I shook my head. "Mr. Newton, I'm not joking. I truly want to end this engagement." He looked at me in shock. "Amelia, are you sure?" It was no wonder he was so surprised. Our two families, the Tates and the Newtons, had been intertwined for generations. My grandfather had once saved his life, and because of that, our engagement was treated as a sacred bond. As long as I didn't ask to end it, the Newton family would never initiate the dissolution. I had followed Ethan around my whole life. I fell for him at 15, infatuated and clinging. We were engaged at my 18th birthday party. For 8 long years, I chased him, obeyed his every command, humbled myself, and tried everything I could to please him. Everyone in our city knew I was head over heels in love with him, and yet here I was, ending it all on my own. "Don't worry," I added calmly. "As long as I'm still here, Clara will never be with him. This engagement was arranged by your grandfather. I won't disrespect his wishes." I looked the old man directly in the eye. "And besides," I said slowly, "Ethan isn't the only one in your family who can marry me." He blinked, taken aback. Then, a flicker of understanding crossed his face as he remembered someone else. "Amelia, that would be such a sacrifice for you. He's 8 years older after all." I shook my head gently. Mr. Newton, I've already thought it through. Compared to Ethan's reckless immaturity, I believe Julian is a much better match for me. Mr. Newton said nothing more. After a long moment of silence, he reached for his phone and dialed Julian Newton's number overseas. When Julian found out he had to return home for an arranged engagement, his hands were trembling. He booked the earliest flight he could, heading home that very night. Though I was the one who initiated the end of the engagement, I couldn't deny the heavy feeling in my chest. That evening, my best friend took me out to dinner to cheer me up. As luck would have it, we ran into Ethan and Clara at the same restaurant. Clara's soft voice drifted over from the next table. Ethan, you might not know this, but if I hadn't suddenly heard you were engaged all those years ago, I never would have gone overseas. You're about to get married, and even though we can only pretend to be a couple for 3 days, I'm already content. Clara, Ethan replied in a low, remorseful voice, I'm the one who wronged you. My chest tightened. My best friend, unable to take it, stood up abruptly and pointed at Clara. I have never seen anyone as shameless as you, she said loudly. You knew he was about to get married, and you still clung to him. If you were truly content, you'd be wishing them well, not trying to tear them apart. Ethan's head snapped in our direction, his expression hard. Amelia, can you stop already? I've explained this so many times. I'm only pretending to be Clara's boyfriend for 3 days. After that, I will marry you. I promise nothing inappropriate will happen. You don't have to stalk me every single day like this. My friend looked like she was about to explode, but I put a hand on her arm to stop her. I glanced at the two of them, my gaze calm. Ethan, don't flatter yourself. I'm just here to have a quiet meal, that's all. He sneered, his eyes narrowing. Do you think I believe that? Amelia, have you forgotten? When I was chasing Clara back then, you pulled the same tricks, always finding excuses to show up and hang around me. And now you're trying the same old tactics. He stepped forward, protectively placing Clara behind him. But you're wrong this time. I already said I'd marry you, but that doesn't mean I'll change my mind about these 3 days. Before I decided to call off the engagement, I had always thought that maybe I just wasn't good enough, that it was my fault Ethan could never truly love me. But standing there, watching his ugly, arrogant display, I finally realized how foolish I had been. Love is either there or it isn't. There's no pretending. And the man standing in front of me was never worthy of my sincere feelings. I met his gaze with an icy calm. Whether or not you change your mind has nothing to do with me because I've already changed mine. Our engagement is over, Ethan. From now on, you walk your path and I'll walk mine. I don't care if you and Clara are pretending or if you run off and get married at City Hall right this second. I will not waste another moment of my time stopping you. Clara stared at me, clearly shocked. Ethan frowned deeply, but before he could speak, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, reading a message from his assistant. The hotel reservation details for the wedding flashed on the screen and his expression darkened. Amelia, he snapped, if you really canceled the engagement, then why would you still reserve a hotel? Stop making things up. I raised my eyebrows slightly. The engagement is canceled. What I choose to do now is none of your business. Ethan scowled. Amelia, whatever game you're playing, it won't change my decision. For these 3 days, I will only be Clara's boyfriend. Clara immediately seized the opportunity, putting on her sweetest voice. Ethan, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause you so much trouble. Maybe we should just stop this. After all, you're supposed to marry Amelia. But Ethan, as if under a spell, took her hand tenderly. Clara, don't say that. I lost the game, and I'll face the consequences. We are a couple for these 3 days. No one can change that. Clara cast a hesitant, almost triumphant glance in my direction. I had reached my limit. I just wanted to enjoy a quiet meal, I said, my voice raised just enough to carry. Someone get these two out of here. This restaurant doesn't welcome them. Ethan let out a cold laugh. Amelia, are you out of your mind? This place belongs to the Newton family. Who do you think you are to throw me out? I looked him straight in the eye. You seem to have forgotten who decides the heir of the Newton family. Years ago, in gratitude for my grandfather saving his life, old Mr. Newton made it clear. Whoever I married would inherit the majority of the Newton estate. This very restaurant was given to me as an engagement gift. So now I have every right to ask you to leave. Ethan obviously knew all this. He looked at me with a sneer. Amelia, you really are disgusting. One moment you're breaking off our engagement, the next you're clinging to Newton property. You think I don't see through you? You're just using the breakup as leverage. I couldn't be bothered to argue. Soon, the restaurant manager arrived and addressed Ethan formally. Mr. Newton, if you would please step outside. Ethan's eyes turned sharp with anger. Amelia, have you completely lost your mind? I replied calmly, this place is mine now. I decide who stays and who leaves. He jabbed a finger in my direction. Amelia, just you wait. I smiled faintly. Don't worry, I promise I will never be the one with regrets. Ethan turned to Clara. This isn't the only restaurant in town, let's go. He grabbed her arm and started to walk away, but I raised my voice again. Stop right there. He turned around, a smug grin spreading across his face. I knew you'd stop me, but sorry, it's too late now. Unless you apologize to Clara, don't even think about me looking back. Watching him act so full of himself, I suddenly realized how blind I had been to fall for someone so conceited. I let out a cold laugh. You misunderstood. I stopped you because you forgot to pay for your meal. His face darkened instantly. Amelia, I was just about to give you one last chance. You threw it away. Don't come crying to me later. I promise I will never regret this, I responded steadily. But surely someone like Mr. Newton wouldn't leave without paying his bill, would he? Ethan gritted his teeth and pulled out a credit card. Fine, charge it, he snapped. A few minutes later, the manager returned looking awkward. I'm very sorry, Mr. Newton, but this card was declined due to insufficient funds. Ethan's face turned ashen. He knew immediately that his grandfather must have cut off his account. He glared at me with pure fury. Amelia, do you think this will make me kneel? I will never give in. I raised an eyebrow. Then pay. No one is stopping you. His expression tightened. The truth was, he didn't have any money. With no other option, he started calling his parents, but unsurprisingly, neither of them answered. His face grew darker with each unanswered call. He tried a few friends, but the moment they heard he needed to borrow money, they all had an excuse to hang up. I knew then that Mr. Newton had truly lost his patience. I looked at him completely unbothered. What's the matter, Mr. Newton? Can you really not afford even this meal? I'll tell you what. For the sake of our past, I can let you run a tab if you ask nicely. His face was rigid with wounded pride. Amelia, you're cruel. You're trying to break me with this pathetic little trick, but I won't bow to you. Then pay, Mr. Newton, I answered with a smile. He clenched his fists, his face darkening with anger. Just as he looked about to explode, Clara stepped forward. Ethan, please don't get upset, she said softly. I'll pay. I was slightly surprised. Of all people, she was the one to step in. I wondered if she even knew how much the meal cost. Ethan's face turned red. Clara, I'm sorry. She gave him a gentle smile. It's all right. We're together now, and I'm not one of those women who only cares about money. It's only fair that we split the bill. His eyes turned red, as if regret were finally washing over him. The manager soon returned with Clara's card. I'm sorry, Miss Fuller, he said politely. Your card has also exceeded its limit. Clara froze. That's not possible. This card has a $5,000 limit. The food itself wasn't that expensive, the manager explained calmly. But there was a bottle of imported red wine from France. It's worth $10,000. I looked at Clara with a faint smirk. Years ago, when Ethan had first pursued her, she had no idea about his family's wealth. Not that it mattered now. So, Miss Fuller, I said slowly, you don't actually have the money. Clara raised her chin defiantly and pulled out several more credit cards. Who said I don't have the money? Swipe them all. One of them will go through. The manager did as she asked. Ethan looked pained, clearly distressed about the money being spent. He shot a glare at me. Amelia, do you think everyone is like you, chasing after money? I'm not letting this go. You just wait. With that, he turned and left with Clara. My friend leaned in. Amelia, is Ethan out of his mind? That Clara woman clearly found out who he is and is trying to cash in. I watched their backs as they disappeared. She's a lot more calculating than you think, I said quietly. But this time, she's going to be disappointed. After finishing my meal, I returned to my office. Just as I stepped inside, I saw Julian rushing in, looking as if he'd come straight from the airport. Amelia, he said, slightly out of breath. Have you really thought this through? I knew he was referring to our engagement. I smiled and teased him gently. What if I say I regret it now? Is it too late? Julian's eyes turned red. Yes, it's too late, he said, his voice surprisingly intense. I already gave you a chance to choose. No matter what happens now, I won't let anyone else take you from me. I had only been half joking, but his seriousness caught me off guard. Had he liked me for a long time? My parents called soon after, suggesting we all have dinner together to talk things over. The evening went smoothly. My parents seemed even more pleased with him than they had ever been with Ethan. To be honest, while my initial decision to change the engagement had been born of frustration, looking at Julian now, gentle, considerate, and handsome, I began to feel that this marriage might not be such a bad idea after all. In fact, I was starting to look forward to it. The next day, I had an appointment to take my wedding photos. And just my luck, Ethan and Clara showed up at the very same studio. Ethan's face immediately twisted into a scowl. Amelia, do you ever stop? Are you seriously stalking me now? I looked at him coldly. The affection I once felt was gone, replaced by a deep revulsion. Ethan, unless I'm mistaken, this studio doesn't belong to you. If you can be here, why can't I? He narrowed his eyes. This is a wedding photography studio. What are you doing here alone? In his mind, I could only be here out of jealousy. I already told you, Naomi and I are just pretending for 3 days. Taking wedding photos with her is just a symbolic farewell. Why do you have to make this so difficult? Ethan, take your photos. I'll take mine. We have nothing to do with each other anymore. What are you talking about? He frowned. Who are you taking wedding photos with? Seeing me alone, he clearly didn't believe me. Clara smirked. Amelia, it takes 2 people to take wedding photos. Are you here by yourself? She paused dramatically. Do people take wedding photos alone now? Just then, a calm male voice interrupted her. Who said she's here alone? Before I could turn, Julian had already walked in from the entrance. He approached me with a gentle smile. Sorry I made you wait. I smiled back. It's all right, I just got here too. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. Uncle Julian, you're back? He glanced between us, confused. You two? Julian looked him square in the eye. Amelia and I are here to take our wedding photos. Clara's eyes flickered with envy as she took in Julian's tall, dignified presence. Ethan, however, looked at me with pure contempt. This is ridiculous. Just to make me break up with Clara, you brought my uncle into your game? Do you really think this little act will change my mind? Keep dreaming. His arrogance was so profound it was almost comical. Ethan, I laughed, do you really think that highly of yourself? What makes you so sure I can't move on? Amelia, the whole world knows you've been obsessed with me since we were kids. When you were 16, you said you would marry no one else. You really expect me to believe you're over me? Before I could reply, Julian stepped forward and struck Ethan across the face. Amelia is going to be your aunt, he said calmly. If you show no respect to your elders, of course I will discipline you. Ethan stumbled back, clutching his cheek. How dare you hit me? His anger then turned on me. Amelia, you've gone too far. What did you say to my uncle to get him to go along with this? Julian struck him again with the back of his hand. No manners at all, I already told you. Show respect. From now on, call her Aunt Amelia. Uncle Julian, how could you be a part of this? Ethan stammered, stunned. Clara, sensing the escalating tension, pulled on his sleeve. Ethan, let's just go. There are other studios. But Ethan was still seething. Suddenly, Clara winced and pressed a hand to her stomach, her face turning pale. Ethan, I'm not feeling well. Let's just go to the hospital. His expression changed immediately. Don't worry, Clara. I'll take you there now. Before leaving, he gave me one last angry glare. Amelia, I won't let this go. You will regret this. Julian moved to stop them, but I held him back. Let it go, I said. She really doesn't look well. He glanced at a small trail of blood on the ground where she had stood, and the truth seemed to dawn on him. Still, he looked at me and asked quietly, Have you really let it all go? I looked at the man before me who had just defended me without hesitation. He looked confident and composed a moment ago, but now he looked almost bitter. I couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, I said softly. I take my feelings seriously, and I will take my commitment to you seriously too. He frowned slightly. But you changed your mind just 2 days before the wedding. I pressed a hand to my temple, trying not to laugh at his sulky expression. Then how about this? Let's skip the photo shoot and just head straight to City Hall. His eyes lit up. Perfect! We can take wedding photos after we get the marriage certificate. On the way to the marriage bureau, Julian quietly sent a message to his assistant. Just as we were filling out the paperwork, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. Amelia, let's postpone the wedding again. But don't worry, I promise I will still marry you. Julian noticed my hesitation with the pen. What's wrong? He asked, his tone suddenly nervous. I looked at his tense face, the fear in his eyes that I might back out. Then I thought about Ethan's message again, and to my surprise, I felt nothing. A person who truly loves you doesn't make excuses. I smiled at Julian. It's nothing. Then I picked up the pen and finished the form. Only after we held that little red booklet in our hands did the tension finally leave his face. On the day of our wedding, just as Julian came to pick me up, Ethan showed up too. Seeing us together, his eyes turned red with fury. Amelia, he shouted. I told you we were just postponing the wedding. Why would you go behind my back like this? I frowned slightly. Ethan, yes, I'm getting married today, but it has absolutely nothing to do with you. If you're not marrying me, who else would you marry? He snapped. This is all just to pressure me, right? Fine, you win. I'm here. I'll marry you. Just tell my uncle to leave. I couldn't help but laugh. Ethan, this time asking Julian to walk away isn't going to work. Before he could respond, Julian stepped forward and kicked him squarely in the chest. Just then, Ethan's parents arrived, rushing to his side. Mom! Ethan cried. He's my uncle, and he came to steal my bride. You need to speak to Grandpa and get him shipped back overseas. His mother looked embarrassed. Ethan, apologize to your uncle, right now. What? Why should I apologize? He's the one who took my fiancé. His mother's voice was sharp. Stop it! Your grandfather already canceled your engagement with the Tate family. Today is Julian and Amelia's wedding. No. Ethan couldn't believe it. Mom, you're my mother. How could you join them in lying to me? Julian pulled out our marriage certificate and held it up for all to see. This is our marriage license. Amelia is now my wife. If you try to interfere again, don't blame me for forgetting we're family. Ethan stood frozen, his eyes locked on the bright red booklet. The words on the cover stared back at him. It was as though a bolt of lightning had struck him. He had only postponed the wedding by 1 day. How could Amelia have married someone else? It wasn't until later, when he took Clara to the house that was meant to be their wedding home, that he discovered it had been sold. That was when it finally hit him. Amelia was truly angry. He had come back just as he said he would. Why had she gone and married someone else? Let's go, Julian said gently, sweeping me into his arms and carrying me to the waiting car. The wedding went off without a hitch. Afterward, Julian took me not to the Newton estate, but to a private villa. I was taken aback when I stepped inside. Every detail, from the colors to the furniture, reflected my personal taste. Julian, you only just got back, I said. How did you know I would like all this? He smiled. Because I have liked you for a very long time. I only left for overseas when you chose Ethan instead. That was when I turned 18. This villa doesn't look like something you planned 8 years ago, I teased. Feels more like something from the past couple of years. He chuckled softly. Back then, I thought as long as you were happy, that was enough. But about a year ago, I saw Ethan meeting Clara overseas. That's when I knew things hadn't changed. It dawned on me then. Ethan had been seeing her behind my back all along. So you had everything prepared in advance? I asked, just waiting for the right moment. I looked up at him. But what if I hadn't called off the engagement? He pulled me gently onto his lap. You would have, he said with quiet certainty. I knew you would. Before I could ask what gave him such confidence, his phone buzzed. It was Mr. Newton, summoning us to the family home immediately. When we arrived, Ethan was kneeling on the floor. Mr. Newton was furious. You fool, he shouted, kicking him. You nearly ruined everything. What are you going to do now? His mother sighed. Well, she's pregnant. Maybe we should just let her marry into the family. I glanced at Julian, and it all clicked into place. Clara was pregnant. No wonder Julian had been so certain. That truth or dare game was just a cover-up. A few weeks ago, this news would have devastated me. Now I just felt thankful I had gotten out in time. But then Ethan, still kneeling, looked up. Grandfather, I will not marry her. The room fell silent. His eyes shifted to me. The woman I want to marry is already someone else's wife. I will never marry again. That kind of love, offered far too late, wasn't romantic. It was just pitiful. Julian tightened his grip on my hand. I sighed inwardly and looked toward the old man. Dad, Julian and I have made a decision. We're planning to go abroad. I gave Julian's hand a reassuring squeeze. There are still overseas projects that haven't been completed. Now that we're married, I should go with him. My words made my position clear. Julian was visibly moved. Ethan looked utterly defeated. Mr. Newton, however, nodded with satisfaction. Before we left, I ran into Clara at the gate of the Newton estate. Amelia, you won, she said, a bitter smile on her face. I frowned. Clara, I was never competing with you. You know what's so infuriating about you? She said, her voice trembling. It's that calm, indifferent attitude. You act like nothing matters, yet you get everything. I let out a cold laugh. Then you can only blame your fate. Even if I had stepped aside, you still wouldn't have had him. That only proves some things are simply not meant for you. I turned and walked toward the house. I knew the truth now. Clara had left the country unaware of Ethan's real identity. When life abroad proved difficult, she regretted it, found her way back, and clung to him once she discovered his wealth, even getting pregnant to try and secure her position. But in the end, Ethan still refused to marry her. I no longer wished to understand him. The past should stay in the past. As I entered the house, I saw Ethan standing inside. He had clearly heard my exchange with Clara. I said nothing, simply walking past him and heading upstairs. Soon after, I heard their voices. Clara, Ethan said, my heart is already gone. I'll take responsibility for the child, but I cannot marry you. Why? Clara's voice cracked. Amelia is married now. You missed your chance. But I regret it. Ethan's voice was low and broken. I really do. The next morning, before sunrise, Julian and I were at the airport. He went to get me some breakfast, and while I waited, my eyes fell on a notebook resting on the seat beside me. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened it and saw the neat handwriting, and a vivid memory surfaced. I could almost hear a friend's voice from long ago. Amelia, someone from the Newton family left more notes for you, and a bottle of milk, too. I remembered that summer when I was 16. I had fractured my leg in a car accident and was stuck at home for weeks. Every single morning, someone would quietly leave a stack of class notes outside my window. Alongside them, always, was a paper crane. At the time, I had just assumed it was Ethan. I had been completely wrong. Just then, Julian returned. Amelia, have you been waiting long? He asked gently. I looked up at him, standing there as the early morning light spilled through the glass. In that moment, the ice that had weighed on my heart for so long finally melted, turning into a quiet, flowing river. It was like hearing the sound of my own teenage heartbeat again, racing and full of life. I stood up, ran to him, and threw my arms around his neck. I should be the one asking that, I said softly. Have I kept you waiting too long? Half a year passed. I found out I was pregnant. My mother called to check on me and, as usual, couldn't help but pass on some news. Old Mr. Newton finally cut Ethan off completely, she said. That Clara girl couldn't handle living without money, and they fought all the time. But they stayed together for the baby. The child was born a few days ago, and they did a paternity test. Turns out, it's not Ethan's. I could almost picture his rage. He went completely mad, my mother continued, nearly strangled her, shouted that he gave up the one person he truly loved because of her. The hospital staff had to pull them apart. She's crippled now, and Mr. Newton sent Ethan overseas. As I listened, I couldn't quite describe the feeling. It wasn't joy or sorrow, just a quiet stillness. None of it had anything to do with me anymore. The day I flew home, Julian took care of everything. At the airport, as we were walking out, I had the strange feeling that someone was watching me. I scanned the crowds but saw nothing. Is everything all right? Julian asked. I smiled at him, a sweet, light feeling in my chest. It's nothing, I said, shaking my head. Come on, my parents must be waiting. What I didn't know was that as I walked out of the terminal, Ethan stepped out from the shadows behind a pillar. He watched my back as I disappeared into the crowd, his eyes fixed and unblinking. Only when I was completely out of sight did he turn away and board a plane to a far distant country.